Hey everybody, it's Mike with Seeds and Arrows Frontier. This video is going to be a little bit different. It's a video, a tribute to my Uncle Carl Hunter. I had a video that I had recorded, one family reunion, and Carl was actually cutting up swamp cabbage. And I was going to post that video. Unfortunately, Carl passed away January 28, 2019, and I had decided that the time was not right. In speaking to my aunt and cousins, I asked their permission to post this video. So this is a tribute to my Uncle Carl, and just how much I think of him, loved him, and he's now with the Lord. So he loved the Lord very much so, and such a great leader in our family that we lost. But this is for you, Carl.
We're out here today demonstrating our technique of booting out swamp cabbage. The swamp cabbage is what most people around the rest of the world call a palm tree, but to us up here in North Florida, in Lafayette County and Taylor County, we call them swamp cabbage. That's what they're known for, and if you call them anything else around here, you might get a dirty look showed at your face, but we're demonstrating how you do it. And it's what we do is cut out about the top 3 foot of a swamp cabbage tree or a palm, and we get the head of it. And once you get the head of it out of the tree, you've got to start removing the boots off of it. And each boot on this swamp cabbage represents where a fan would be growing out one day if it lives long enough. And we're showing you how to get the heart out of it without getting any tough or any fiber or anything like that in it that would be bad tasting. And so we're over here trimming them on down. And these is what's left over from a family reunion that we've had, the Stanley family reunion. And what's left, I'm carrying home to Alabama with me. And so we're trimming these boots on down. And there's a certain place on this head of cabbage that you can split this boot where it's real thin to make the boot come off real easy. And if there's anything tender on here that will break, that means it's good and you can keep it. But if it's not, you throw it away. And now I've done got down to close to the real good, and I'm going to start cutting it off all the way around the end of this head of cabbage until I start getting down close to the white edge, this white ring all around. When I get down to there, I'll split it again. Now I'll show you the difference. All of this solid color, all of this is the thick part. This side here is where the fan would actually come out, but you roll it on around, you start seeing these lines in here. This is where the thin side is, so that's where I'm going to split it at. You just roll it around again, and if anything will break off of it, it's going over here in the good pot. And now we're going to trim it down again until we get back down close to this white edge. And this cabbage right here is very good to eat raw. And if any of y'all would like to try a piece while we're doing this, I'll be glad to cut you a piece. And we're going to continue cooking it on down. Now, some people here where we live has grown up eating this stuff all of their life, and probably the best way that we've ever had it was you would cut up this pot of swamp cabbage and get it ready to cook, and then you would have somebody come walking in with a mess of squirrel, and you'd fry that squirrel up, and then you would throw that fried squirrel over to this pot of swamp cabbage, and you would put it on to cook and cook it down until the swamp cabbage got ready, and then you had yourself a fine meal. All you needed then was a few hush puppies or a whole cake of cornbread, and you could sit and eat until you was full as you wanted to be. And we're getting this head of cabbage right on down. It's getting very close to the very inner part. You can see where I'm breaking this, these fibers are still holding, so more than likely that's going to be a little bit bitter there, so I'm not going to throw it in the pot. But when I was growing up as a youngin', these parts right here is what Mom and Daddy give to us to munch on if we wanted to. And so we would fight over who got those pieces there that wasn't really that good. But we as youngins, we didn't know any better. We're getting it right on down, and we'll try breaking. And this here is breaking pretty easy, so this is still good. All right, throw that away. We're going to trim this on down one more time. And that's still pretty tender. Split it again. Now this big old head of cabbage, it's come down to just about nothing. And when these head of cabbage are being used for this purpose and all, some people has actually taken the fan, and I'll demonstrate in just a second if I hadn't already run it. See, all of this stuff that you break, that's some real good sweet eating. And you could actually take these fans and spread them out. Well, this one here is not cooperating very good, but you could actually spread them out and make you a nice little fan out of them. Let it dry with it wide open, and you'd have yourself a nice little fan to cool yourself with. Now that's what you do to be able to get a pan full of swamp cabbage.
Let me try a piece of that.
Sure, just that. This right here is the, whoops, reach in there and get you a piece of it. That is the very heart, that right there is the sweetest part of that cabbage, that very inside.
Crunches just like regular cabbage.
Yeah, it feels like.
And it is good.
And in the summertime, you can cut these cabbage and actually keep them fresh like this for several days, especially if you keep them in a cool place. If you keep them in a cool place, they'll last a couple of weeks before you really have to cut them and cut them up and eat them. Well, we're going to carry these back to Alabama, and I'm going to cook them down and probably can them in jars. That will keep the crispiness of the swamp cabbage. Put them in the jars. Now you can put them in the freezer, putting them up, and take a bag out and cook them. Really, it's just however you prefer to do it. Now this outside part right here, we're going to give Mikey a piece of it right here. Now this right here may have a little slight bitter taste to it, but you can put that little bit of bitterness in there and add sugar to it, and it'll make the whole pot sweeten up.
Yeah, it's a little more bitter.
Does it? Salt and pepper and a little bit of sugar. And some fried squirrel.
Oh yeah.
Y'all excuse my manners eating while I talk, but it's an art. Everybody cannot do it, but I can do it very easily without spitting out too much food.
How long have you been making swamp cabbage?
Probably around 40 to 45 years. When I was a boy, my daddy and I and another man would go out cutting swamp cabbage, and we'd go cut 15 or 20 head every time we got to go cut them.
So how do you know which palms to choose, like when you're cutting them?
Well,
How do you know which ones are ripe?
as long as they're big enough that it's got the whole head, and most of the time, if there's a round solid head, at least 3 foot out of the ground, they big enough to harvest. And they are growing swampy areas, mostly around the states that is close to the Gulf or either to the ocean. They don't grow very far inland, probably not over 100 miles naturally, but they will grow in swampy areas, and they'll grow in real sandy areas. And some of the fattest head of cabbage that I've ever seen growed in the sandiest, poor soil that you could ever see. And what I'm talking about fat is sort of like me. I'm a lot bigger rounder than old Andrew is here. And so I'd be considered fat. So that head of swamp cabbage, if it's big around, that area is fat. And I've heard a lot of people refer to them as Mississippi Reds. I don't know where they got it from.
How much would that cook down to? One.
Well, a pot this full would probably cook down to a pot about a half full.
Okay, so if you're gonna feed, you know, 10 people, how many heads of cabbage do you think you would probably need? Or heads of
If I was going to feed 10 people from my family, we'd probably need about 20 head of swamp cabbage. But for somebody who don't know how to eat swamp cabbage and squirrel, 1 head may be enough for them.
City folk?
Well, now these swamp cabbage are very good things to eat, but they can get you in a lot of trouble. If you stop side the road this day and time and cut a swamp cabbage and you get caught, you get put in jail. And when I was a boy, you could go anywhere you wanted to and cut a swamp cabbage, because swamp cabbage is literally everywhere. But this day and time, you can get them if you're on a hunting club and you've got a permit to cut them, or you know somebody who owns land and also having to have a permit to be able to cut them. It's sort of like having a driving license and all. And so you just have to be very careful where you get them from. The best ones that you'll ever get are the ones that you have to get somebody to drop you out beside the highway and get out there with your axe and cut them down, and then call somebody on the phone and tell them where you at so they can come pick you up. Stealing them, really. I mean, to me, that kind there has always been the best kind to get. And everybody does not agree with my theology on that, and that's okay. Everybody has got an opinion about something, and that don't make nobody right. Except the person holding that opinion.
The Lord Almighty.
That's right. He's the one to give it all to us. Now, I've already got down to what is going to be some of the good part of this head of cabbage. Now, when you're doing this head of cabbage, most of the time, out of a real good big head of cabbage, you'll get about a gallon Ziploc bag full of swamp cabbage out of it. And so I'm going to trim this down, and I'll show you in just a second how far I'm going to trim it to. Well, I've got down this thin area of white on this boot right here. I'm getting close to it, and when you get past that white, it starts getting real tough, and that there is not no good to eat. Now you can throw it in the hog pen, and they'll show you the meaning of what good is with it. They'll eat it right on down till there's nothing else left there to get. Now, as long as you can break this off real easy. Now see, this here, when I broke it, it still got fiber hooked to it, so that's not going to be any good. So we're going to trim on down again on this here, but until I get down to there's not much white left on this outside boot. And I'm getting close to that point right there. We'll layer down again. We'll try to break some more of this good off. All right, that there's a little tough. We'll go back to cutting on it again. Get on down close to the edge of this white again. Now that there is getting a little bit tough, so we'll stop there. Split her down again. Trim a little bit more of this white off of here. And we're getting down close to being to the end of the head of this swamp cabbage. And if you're very creative in any kind of way, have the skills to, you can take these boots and make just about anything that you could imagine out of them. You can make you a bed to sleep on them if you want to. You can pile them up in a pile and let them dry out, and you can burn them. You have to use your own imagination to tell what the rest of this here swamp cabbage is good for. And me, myself, I like to just go throw them in a ditch or either throw them in the hog pen. These pieces here, as long as you can break the pieces off like that, it's good. Now that quit breaking real easy, so we're going to cut just a little bit more. Break just a little bit off, and this right here is still the same part of that cabbage fan. You can get right down here to the very end of it. You can dry this thing out just like this right here. Tack it down or lay something on it so it's dry, and you've got yourself a fine little fan for down here in the south. And this is the end of this demonstrating on how to boot out a head of swamp cabbage.
Paint some of them fans, Cindy.
We going to business.
Thank you very much, Carl. Appreciate it. And thank you so much for your meal, because it was outstanding earlier today.
It was.
That's great.
That was the
Thank you
best
for
swamp cabbage I had all day.
Yes, sir.
It's going up on YouTube. And we're gonna how to find Carl Hunter.